What's good? Salute, salute. YouTube, what's going on? My bad. Got on here a little late, you know what I'm saying? Top of the evening, know what's going on, y'all, man. Shoot, just over here, just got back in. Had to handle a little bit of business. I'm just gonna do a little short show today, man. You know what I'm saying? A little something, something today. Not nothing too crazy. And I'm gonna finish up a follow up, probably do something early in the morning tomorrow. Gotta do it like that, man. That's how we doing it. That's how we does it. So what's good with y'all, man? You know what I'm saying? On this YouTube, in these YouTube streets. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna do a little show on Gloria steinum, man, and how this what this did, man, to our so-called community, man. And I think I'm gonna start doing follow-ups with these people and so-called Black history like her. I'm gonna do one on I think not, but what's the boys, all of them, the traitors amongst us, man. You know what I'm saying? The traitors amongst. So I'm just gonna do a little something. Ain't gonna be too long. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about this, man. Let's see, you know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna do a little something, not too crazy. All right, so hold up. Yeah, they probably sleep, so I'm just gonna do a little something. So it might even just be 30 minutes. Not even be that long, man. Break it down. Let's see. All right, so let's go into what's the name of Gloria steinum. All right, so let's do this. Let's do this. No further ado. All right, so all right, man, people like her, people like King, people like this was paid to damage our communities. And the crazy thing about it, this lady wasn't even in our community. So that's basically how they do it. And to break it all down and sum it up, people coming here, they're basically like agent provocateurs, basically agents to disrupt what kind of movement you have going on at the time. And so at the time, Black people was doing a lot of revolutionary type movements and a lot of you see what I'm saying? Even back to Africanism and all different types of aspects of, what I'm saying, the game. So a lot of things was different. Black people was really getting into quote unquote consciousness and stuff like that and really finding more identities on their true self. So that this right here basically disrupted everything. People like Gloria Steinem, people like Martin Luther King, agents like this, basically just threw a monkey wrench and everything. So I want to break this down real quick. All right. Let me play this video. I got a couple of videos. Let's see. All right, let's see. I'm gonna play a couple of clips. Mm-hmm. All right, she played Black women, and see, I think this they use it was able to do this on the guise of women's freedom and free women's movements and all that, right? So, played them. Fair use, fair use. 76 copyright act.
Well, I think it will happen. It's just in the air now. It's happening much faster than I ever thought it would. It's a political movement. It's a social movement. All this is springing up of itself. I saw in the Washington Post the other day there was an article about a suburban rap group. It has 3 grandmothers and 1 teenage girl and a lot of women in between. You know, it's in all ages, in all segments of society. It's just happening. But in order to free us of the conflict, so that you know what we're trying to straighten out now, it has to start in the home. I mean, one of the things that these women in the suburbs were discussing is how to raise your children as human beings and not force them into male and female roles. That's the problem. But I think that what people are beginning to understand is its relationship to violence and why we're in Vietnam and many fundamental troubles of this country. Palma, the Swedish minister who was here last month, gave a speech called The Emancipation of Man, a marvelous speech, not taken seriously or covered by the press, in which he said that he felt that to straighten out the sexual problems and to keep manhood from depending on the subjugation of other people and womanhood on passivity was the prime responsibility of government, and that his government considered it their prime responsibility. There was no hope for peace or for full human beings without it. And the day I see a top official of this country get up and give a speech like that, I'll know that things have begun to change. But the government is the working woman. And for instance, there's a case now in Toledo, Ohio, my hometown, where the factory there is being made to pay back pay to women who have never been paid equally for the same work. And it's the kind of blue collar working woman who needs these reforms the most, I think, and also poor women and welfare women. But I think it really is going forward on all levels at once, and it's an important bridge between black women and white women, and also a great way into the silent majority. It's too.
She's trying to look. You see what she doing, black women? She's trying to draw similarities to y'all and trying to make it seem like y'all have the same struggle, which you do not at all. Right? She used black women, man. But see, my thing is, why would you fall under something like this when we wasn't oppressing you? Black men can oppress you. Black men didn't have the power to oppress you. Black men, what kind of power did we have? As a matter of fact, black women and black men are damn near in the same boat, because you got black men and black women are part of these Masonic lodges and a part of these groups and stuff like that. What are they doing for the black men and women? It's both for men and women. So I really don't want to hear it. I see sellouts in both men and the women. King was a sellout for the men, Rosa Parks for the women. You know, it's all staged, you know what I'm saying, actors, you know what I'm saying? They didn't have IMDb's back then, though, you know. Let me play a little bit of this real quick. Fair use under Copyright Act Section 107. Allowance is made for me to record this video for commentary and educational purposes. All right, fair use.
The woman you see right here is so-called American feminist, journalist, and social and political activist Gloria Steinum, who became nationally recognized as a leader of and media spokeswoman for the women's liberation movement in the late 1960s and 1970s. But did you know she was working for the CIA? Wikipedia only pays a small amount of lip service to this little factoid, but the facts are that Miss Steinum became a media darling due to her connections to the CIA, and the feminist Ms. Magazine was funded by CIA money. In the 1970s, a radical feminist group called the Red Stockings claimed that before she became a feminist leader, she was spying on Marxist students in Europe and disrupting their meetings. Steinum was recruited by CIA's Cord Myers to direct an informal group of activists called the Independent Research Service. This was part of Myers' Congress for Cultural Freedom, which created magazines like Encounter and Partisan Review to promote a left liberal chic to oppose Marxism. Steinum attended communist-sponsored youth festivals in Europe, published a paper, reported on other participants, and helped to provoke riots. Gloria Steinum, who was from a poor and dysfunctional family and lived in a house without running water, was able to attend the elite and expensive Smith College. After she graduated, she spent 2 years in India spying for the CIA. She received a Chester Bowles Student Fellowship to study in India. This was a fellowship created by the CIA to cover Steinum's expenses in India.
Nobody knew that this lady was an agent. People wasn't that bright to see what was this lady up to. They didn't see the clues.
No one has received a Chester Bowles Student Fellowship either before or since Steinum received one. Commenting on the CIA-controlled student festivals organized by Gloria Steinum, Sheila Tobias, an unwitting participant on one such trip, who later taught women's studies at Cornell University, said the CIA was interested in spying on the American delegates to find out who in the United States was a Trotskyite or communist. So we were a front, as it turned out. Gloria Steinem's name keeps showing up in projects associated with CIA operations. For example, in the summer of 1959, just before John J. McCloy took his family for an extended trip to Europe, C.D. Jackson wrote to remind McCloy that later that summer, a World Youth Festival was scheduled to take place in Vienna. Jackson asked McCloy to contribute a propaganda article. The piece would appear in a daily newspaper to be published in Vienna in conjunction with the festival. McCloy agreed, and the article was published in 5 languages in a newspaper distributed by a 25-year-old Smith graduate named Gloria Steinum. When this covert operation was revealed by Ramparts magazine in 1967, Steinum told the New York Times that she approved the agency's role. I was happy to find some liberals in government in those days who were far-sighted and cared enough to get Americans of all political views to the festival. Steinum's definition of a liberal then included such young men as Zbigniew Brzezinski, an assistant professor at Harvard. Steinum arranged to fund Brzezinski's visit to the student festival. Brzezinski would later become the national security advisor to President Jimmy Carter, and he was the man who invented the so-called bear trap, which suckered the Soviet Union into invading Afghanistan. Brzezinski was also the man who first organized and funded Osama bin Laden's jihad against the Soviets in Afghanistan. Gloria Steinem also identified and targeted Alice Walker in the early 1960s. She befriended Alice Walker and paid for Alice Walker to come to the CIA-manipulated student festival in Vienna. Alice Walker would later become the foremost writer of anti-blackmail hate books, all of which were funded by money funneled to her publishers by the CIA.
Blackmail hate books. Don't it seem like it's the same thing going on now, man? So you got the black woman doing it. You know what I'm saying? You get her, she gets the cosign, or whether she cosigns you. You know what I'm saying? Damn it, hold up, y'all. And you do it. You know what I'm saying? Damn it. Hold up, y'all. Very interesting. So I mean, you gotta really think about it from that perspective. You see what I'm saying? Agents, man. agent provocateurs. That's real.
Steinum has boasted
Okay.
in interviews with the New York Times and the Washington Post that her training with the CIA was good journalistic training because the CIA taught you to be accurate. This statement proves that Steinum was happy to collect money working for the CIA. Gloria Steinum dated J. Stanley Pottinger for 9 years. Pottinger was in charge of sabotaging civil rights enforcement at the Justice Department. He was Assistant Attorney General under President Nixon and President Ford. According to Donald Freed and Fred Landis in their book Death in Washington, J. Stanley Pottinger also helped to cover up the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Orlando Letelier.
Excuse me.
Pottinger also publicly defended Gloria Steinem against charges of CIA involvement, which Steinem had already admitted. Why would a radical feminist like Gloria Steinem be anywhere near a guy like Pottinger unless she was a government employee herself? Steinem also dated Henry Kissinger, an international war criminal, establishment technocrat, and a longtime CIA operative for years. Why would a radical feminist date someone who was considered a mass murderer by everyone in the movement? When New York Times reporters confronted Steinem with documentation of her connections to the CIA and CIA funding of her various activities, Steinem remarked that she got caught because CIA wasn't tricky enough. Hinting that CIA should have made better use of front companies, Steinem remarked. The CIA's big mistake was not supplanting itself with private funds fast enough. By the time Steinem founded Ms. Magazine, the CIA had learned how to funnel money through private individuals and corporations. That's how Steinem was able to fund Ms. Magazine. Her CIA funding was so substantial that Steinem was able to do the unprecedented. She stopped accepting advertising for Ms. Magazine. She didn't need any more advertising because CIA money has been keeping her expensively produced magazine afloat from the very beginning. Gloria Steinem had the power to successfully censor 3 different publications: the book Feminist Revolution, a Village Voice article, and a New York community newspaper article. All 3 publications documented Steinem's involvement with the CIA. Nevertheless, a story about Steinem's CIA connections appeared in the Village Voice on May 21, 1979. When Red Stockings tried to publish a book called Feminist Revolution with a chapter that detailed Steinem's CIA connections, Steinem and her powerful CIA-connected friends forced Random House to delete the chapter on Steinem. Nevertheless, the chapter on Steinem's CIA connections appeared in the Village Voice, but only after the Village Voice had been threatened by Steinem's lawyers. The book Feminist Revolution is still available. You can buy the censored version from Red Stockings for $8. For $4, or free if you buy Feminist Revolution, you get the censored section, which contains detailed material on Steinem's early work with the CIA, and an account of how this story was censored after originally being scheduled for publication. Who were the powerful people who put pressure on Random House, the Village Voice, and Red Stockings on Steinem's behalf? Katharine Graham, publisher of the Washington Post. Graham is a known CIA agent. See book Catherine the Great by Deborah Davis. Franklin Uncle Thomas of the Ford Foundation. The Ford Foundation is a documented funnel for CIA funds.
And see, that lets you know they just said she worked for the paper, but she was an agent. That's perfect because Operation Mockingbird, you know, that shows you right there. The Operation Mockingbird shows you right there. You see what I'm saying? That they have FBI. You know what I'm saying? The media and the FBI. I mean, and the CIA go hand in hand. These government organizations, you know, have people working for the media and the CIA. It's that simple. This is that simple. It's nothing, you know. But, you know, that's why we trying to tell people, man. You know, be alert, be aware, be watchful, man, because you know that's what they got. I'm gonna show you about this crisis actor stuff in a little while.
And Warder Communications, a Ms. Magazine stockholder and CIA propaganda company. Since the middle of World War II, a U.S. intelligence establishment has spent billions of dollars researching mind control techniques and inventing mind control technology. Thousands of people were kidnapped, drugged, hypnotized, and tortured as part of the CIA's mind control research and field testing. Many of these victims began surfacing in the 1980s. These victims were having strange dreams and flashbacks. This was dangerous for the CIA because their mind control operations would be exposed. So the CIA created, funded, and controlled a number of organizations that floated the idea that these victims were suffering from strange dreams and flashbacks because they had been sexually abused by their parents as children and had repressed those memories. This would become the perfect way of misdirecting the search for who really victimized these people. Strangely enough, Gloria
You know what's crazy? This lady is celebrated by people. This lady is honored, and you know, they revere her for her good work and this and that. But yet, basically, she was involved in mind control for the CIA, and basically mind control operations like the feminist movement and that black independent woman thing. Basically, how it worked. So I mean, it's just crazy how that you know plays out. Like, wow. Give her flowers for misguiding people and right and shifting people in the wrong direction and turning the community against women against their men in the community, man. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
Steinum teamed up with Ted Gunderson to foment the satanic child abuse hysteria as a way to help cover up the CIA's mind control experiments on human beings. In 1978, Gloria Steinem put a book called Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman on the cover of Ms. Magazine. The book was written by a black feminist and activist named Michelle Wallace, who came out of nowhere. Wallace was in her early 20s at the time, yet she was being touted as the leader of black feminism. In the book, Wallace called abolitionists like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth ugly and stupid for supporting black men. She called black revolutionaries
I mean, so it wasn't going to work anyway because with y'all having that mindset about black men plus doing the welfare thing, not all, but certain black women do going with the welfare thing over the men and a stable home and a nuclear family kind of says a lot right there. It would have never worked anyway.
chauvinist macho pigs and advised black women to go it alone. Gloria Steinem said that Wallace's book would define the future of black relationships, and she pushed hard to make sure the book received massive publicity. Gloria Steinem's work triggered a flood of hate black men books and films that continues to this day. Needless to say, some were quite suspicious of Ms. Magazine and Gloria Steinem.
Continues to this day, right? He's right about that. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't stop. Terry McMillan, Waiting to Exhale, books like that, movies like that, just shows you a lot right there. It shows you all it needs. It basically shows you all you need to know. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to my girl Savvy Savs, man. It worked like a charm, man. So it's just like they did a good job, man. I ain't gonna lie. Let's go over here. Shout out to my girl Savvy Savs, fair use. Check out her channel. You got some good content, man.
I have 12 emails, 30 messages, and a proposal due by 10.
How am I already underwater?
I'm in the same.
1976, 107 allowances made for me to report for a commentary and also educational purposes. All right, so let's go into this, right?
This is something that I think the left should spend more time discussing a little bit. And it's not just about Gloria Steinem. It's about the second wave of feminism and how that impacted the civil rights movement and what effect that had on Black women. You see, a lot of times people like to praise Gloria Steinem, and I wish people would stop doing that. When we talk about that second wave of feminism, what we have to understand is that, in my opinion, based on the evidence that I've seen, Gloria Steinem's second wave of feminism actually hurt the civil rights movement. I would also say that it was harmful towards Black women as well. We'll get into all of that. And I'm also going to dive into how I think this impacted the family unit, in particular for Black women. So Gloria Steinem was on the Griot. Even on the Griot, they interviewed Gloria Steinem, and she was talking a little bit about feminism. I want you to hear this.
An event. The question I had for you, I was reading your book. You said that in the March on Washington, you met a Black woman named Mrs. Green. and she brought
With
up
an E, Mrs. Green with an E.
Green with an E.
Right.
She brought up the fact that Black women were, in many ways, the reason why the march happened, but so many weren't given the opportunity to speak. Why was that such a profound moment for you? What did you learn in that moment about Black women?
Well, she was seeing with eyes that I did not yet have. I mean, I was there just as, I didn't have any job or thing to do there. I was just one of thousands of people. This was the Martin Luther King March. And I was looking at the same platform she was, and she was seeing that there were no women speaking, and she was angry.
And you have friends like Maxine Waters, Dorothy Pittman Hughes, Flo Kennedy. What have Black feminists taught you?
Feminism. I mean, even before that, I remember I was working with the National Welfare Rights Organization, and they did the first feminist analysis of social policy I'd ever seen. They looked at welfare policy and did a wonderfully funny treatment of it as a gigantic husband that was jealous and looked under your bed for the shoes of other men and kept you
It is real. I told you in that, showed you on the movie Claudine. They was really doing that. They was going into the Black woman's house, checking the, under the bed, seeing if they had a man, because remember, that's the only way they would be able to get benefits, right? There was certain stipulations. But see, it was racism and discrimination too. But see, I don't understand why Black women did that and went for those little bit of benefits when you could just, but see, that is an effect too, not just Black, but women, period, have an effect of having multiple partners and multiple kids' fathers too back then. You see what I'm saying? You got multiple kids' fathers. A guy's gonna be like, I'm not gonna raise all these kids. You know what I'm saying? When you got you know what I mean? That's just, I mean, it's crazy, man. It's a crazy little cycle. And they was pushing that in the movie too. Her friends were saying, "Oh, I could do what I want, have sex, and do what I want. I don't got no kid." Like basically just pushing that ideology was crazy. But you hear how they laugh about this like it's funny? Like there ain't nothing funny about that.
on, hardly any money. Like, I mean, it was very funny and very sharp. So, after that, I began to think about doing, taking a feminist look at all social policy. And Fannie Lou Hamer, for instance, I helped to interview Fannie Lou Hamer for the ACLU when Ruth Ginsburg there had a project against the forced sterilization of mostly women of color, of course, and especially Black women. And because that had happened to Fannie Lou, her...
What? Okay, so you notice there was never no legislation that came out of any of that? Did any of these people sue the government for any of this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a lot of symbolism I see to me. But I mean, that's a real fight, protecting up against sterilization and everything. But my thing is, how are you, where's the legislation that came along with that though? You don't just fight just to be on for the sake of fighting. You fight for policy, right? That's when the change comes, when the law comes.
Her interview was very important to the case. Fannie Lou was, I mean, we know, of course, that she was the great civil rights leader, but what we don't know that she was also a great feminist who was a leader and a pioneer on reproductive freedom, which
Then she got beat up by the police, and what happened after that? Nothing. Nobody came to fight for her after that. Left her looking crazy, and she died. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Let's really talk about what happened with Fannie Lou Hamer. You know,
means the freedom to have
like,
or not to have
they
children.
glorify, romanticize.
Let's pause right there. Reproductive freedom.
Like, and then these females are having kids by multiple babies by multiple dudes. How is it not reproductive freedom? If you're having sex with multiple people and having babies by multiple people, you have as much freedom as you want. That's why you're having sex with multiple dudes. Am I right or wrong? Come on, let's just keep it 100. There's no reproductive freedom, reproductive rights. If you having kids without condoms, that's your right to have kids. To have sex raw. That's your right.
This is where we need to dive in. Let me let her finish. Hold on.
She had been sterilized in a Mississippi hospital when she went in for a completely different procedure without her knowledge. And she was very conscious of the fact that this happened to her at the same time that white women had to have, I think, 4 children and their husbands' written permission to have a sterilization of their own free will. You know, and also she was a founder of the National Women's Political Caucus. Now, in the history books,
people can't say racism ain't real because they do all these real racial tactics. You could tell they was doing that for breeding purposes. So, so we could stop breeding. That's why they were doing it. That's where eugenics society came in before that, in the 30s, 40s.
Yeah, we'll stop there.
If a man really hated ads, here's what he would do. Day 1. He would install Pi on his computer without spending a...
Because there's a couple of things I want to get into about Gloria Steinem. Obviously about the CIA part, I'll get to that in just a second. But I want to touch on something else that she said here. Apparently, no movement is perfect. And that includes the civil rights movement. And in the civil rights movement, according to Gloria Steinem, apparently there were disagreement among, some of the women and the men, because some of the women weren't happy that none of the women were allowed to speak on the stage at the march in Washington.
Symbolic. What does it matter who damn speaks? As long as shit gets done, as long as you prove your point, what does it matter? Like, oh, we didn't get to speak. Like, see, it's symbolism. People didn't want change. They just wanted to speak, wanted to be heard, wanted attention. I guess, man.
So Gloria Steinem tells you here that she learned feminism from Black women. But as you go on, you notice and you see, even in my history books when I was in school, even though she learned that from Black women, Gloria Steinem became the face of the second wave of feminism. And her type of feminism did not benefit Black women, and it harmed the civil rights movement. I really want to have women understand this, especially if you're white women and you're listening. When you don't center other people, let me bring this up here. We'll bring up the CIA part first. When you don't center other people, which this was intentional, by the way, oftentimes what happens is that our views are pushed to the bottom of the list, or they're not touched at all. So let's get into a little bit about her role as a spy, right? Some people know about this, some people don't. Gloria Steinem's new book, My Life on the Road, recounts her life's journeys and travels. Early reviews and profiles reveal incredible detail of Steinem's barrier-breaking feminist role, liberal politics, romances, proclivities, and lifestyle. What is often missed or mischaracterized, however, is the work she did as a CIA agent. Steinem was a spook. CIA agents are tight-lipped, but Steinem spoke openly about her relationship to the agency in the 1950s and 60s after a magazine revealed her employment by a CIA front organization, the Independent Research Service. So, of course, it's not uncommon for the CIA to have these organizations that go under another name, right? And she doesn't, at the time, she didn't deny that, but she was a spy.
Telling you. So, okay, so, and don't be surprised because you got this in the Black Panthers, you had this in all these other groups, you see what I'm saying? You know, King and stuff like that. But look, see, that lets you know too, right here, that all these other groups is infiltrated, not just, you know what I'm saying, any kind of organization or grassroots. A lot of times, you know what I'm saying, in this American society is made up from the government sources anyway. That's how I look at it, and that's a fact. Or it starts out organic, and then all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying, these people from the city, like Black Lives Matter, they take it up, you know what I'm saying, they get into it, and they start pushing their propaganda, man.
A little bit more here and say, while popularity Palourde, because of her paymaster, Steinum defended the CIA relationship, saying, in my experience, the agency was completely different from its image. It was liberal, nonviolent, and honorable. So,
hello, brother. The monkey that likes killing our family.
let's get to the civil rights movement, shall we? The CIA spied on Dr. King.
Did I just say that?
The CIA spied on Dr. Martin Luther King. And it says it right here. It says here, let me make it a little bit bigger. U.S. World News in brief. CIA spied on Dr. King. The CIA spied on Dr. King in the 1960s through informants, gathered records of King's telephone calls, and photocopied some of his credit card receipts and messages scrawled on business cards. According to documents in federal lawsuit, the documents disclosed and obtained by the Los Angeles Times contain discussions of how allegedly derogatory information about King could be used to discredit him as a civil rights leader. One CIA informant suggested that King be removed as a Black leader. So,
that's the problem too. These so-called quote unquote Black leaders. You see what I'm saying? What is a Black leader? You know what I'm saying? What is a leader? You see what I'm saying? What are they there to do? Lead you to what? You see what I'm saying? That's how I take it, you know. Lead us into a burning building, like he said in the last speech.
You have Gloria Steinum, who was a spy for the CIA, and the CIA was spying on Dr. King. You have women that were a part of the civil rights movement, Black women that were dissatisfied that Black women weren't allowed to speak on the stage at the March on Washington. And some of those women also participated in Gloria Steinum's second wave of feminism. Why was this an issue? My theory is that Gloria Steinum's second wave of feminism was a distraction from the civil rights movement. This is not to say that I'm against women's rights, that I'm against women having equality. No, that is not true. But at the same time, when you have a movement, it is very important that you're not splitting resources and you're not splitting the people. Now, all of a sudden, the Black women, some of the Black women that were part of the civil rights movement, now they're splitting their time between movements. Because you see, somewhere along the way, Gloria Steinum's feminism had convinced them, you know, you also have to fight for your rights as a woman, not just for the Black community. But Gloria Steinum's feminism was different than what Black women were trying to do. When Black women were fighting for feminism, they were fighting for their entire community. Gloria Steinum's feminism was fighting for the right for mainly affluent white women to work alongside white male counterparts.
Facts.
Right.
Facts. So it was an economics thing. Not even just that. It's just, well, basically, I want to work with you. I want to work by you. I want to get out the house. That's what their movement was. I don't want to just take care of the babies at the house. See what I'm saying? We had a whole revolution though. We was trying to be you know what I'm saying, seen as regular damn people. You see what I'm saying? We fighting discrimination. They just fighting, placement, because that's still the white man's woman. You see, at the end of the day. So I mean, it's not the same thing though. Not at all.
Right? To burn your bras. And then, of course, the reproductive rights. The problem that you run into is that you pick one or the other, because what happens is now you have a Black woman who's participating in the civil rights movement, also participating in the feminist movement. So she's fighting for her rights as a woman under a movement that really was not centering Black women's issues. It was centering the issues that affluent white women wanted to talk about. So while some of those white women were advocating for the right to work in these environments alongside other white male counterparts, a lot of Black women were already working. So it's like you're fighting for the right to be alongside white men in these environments, and you don't even have to work. But we have to work. We'll get into the class issue about this in just a second. But this part right here.
Facts. So that's what it's all about. To get them women to raise them Gen Z, man, them, you know what I'm saying, Gen X kids, and so they could be on that feminist, I don't need a man type stuff. It's just, that's basically what it was, man, to breed out the next generation of that kind of thinking and ideology, man, damaging the so-called community, man. I mean, if you mess up the nuclear household, if you mess up the fact of even a man and a woman, you know what I'm saying, procreating and having a baby and wanting to be together after that and having a family, something is up. Then you messing up the family. It's funny because they don't do these illegals like that. When these legals come here, they don't break up the damn illegals family. You see what I'm saying? They give the legals funding as a family. They be like, how many are you? Okay, we're gonna give y'all this much because you're this much. They don't say, we're not gonna give you funding in order for you to get funding, you can't have a man, or you can't have, no, it don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? These illegals get all this stuff in tow. You see what I'm saying? I mean, look at what happened. And my thing is, what happened with the Ukrainian and the Afghani immigrants some years back? Nobody ain't talking about them. They living comfortably, living good. They probably got business grants and all that. And I'm telling you, these people come and get business loans and grants and all this, man, while we still suffering and fighting for us just to be seen. Just like it's the same in the 60s, it's kind of like similar now. We fighting for this, we fighting for that. We fight. It's like all the same issues, fighting for to end police brutality. Nothing's really changed, man. I don't know. I don't see how people are hoping.
Feminist icon Gloria Steinem was an anti-communist CIA operative who kept the feminist movement from discussing class, only gender. And then I'll get to the racial.
Oh, it's a race thing, but it's also a class thing. Remember, you see what I'm saying? That's what the red line was about. Racial politics, but using it in the class way. Okay, check this out. Using it in the class way as far as, okay, if you live and move by these Black people, your property value will go down, or don't move or live in this property value, or don't live in this area because the property value is down because a certain group of undesirable people live there. You see what I'm saying? That's that class stuff, man. It's combining the class and the race thing. You see what I'm saying?
Part as well. Because see, this is a problem. And this is Gloria. This is who a lot of people love to praise, and she was so great, yada, yada. But when it comes to the class issue, listen to this part. We already talked about the CIA thing. You guys know about that. But I want to get to this.
Exactly, Doc. Well,
socialism, not on Gloria's watch. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Gloria's aversion to socialism. She saw it as the ultimate buzzkill for feminism. Why bother discussing economic equality when you can focus on breaking glass ceilings and burning bras? Forget about the working class struggle. Gloria had more pressing matters, like ensuring that women could have it all. Who needs universal health care when you've got a killer highlighter game. And this is a missing part, a big, big missing part, because the Black women that decided to fight alongside Gloria Steinem were not in the same class for the most part as Gloria Steinem. So if you're fighting for reproductive rights, how are you not fighting for giving everybody health care as well? Because people like Gloria probably already had it. The Black women that are fighting with you needed things like health care. It wasn't just about the right to, decide whether or not you wanted to have a child. That costs money. You still need health care. So why was there no class struggle that was a part of this movement? And that is because it was never supposed to get to that level. If you look at the civil rights movement, even Dr. King, towards the end, started to organize the workers in Alabama. He started talking about the class issue as well. Even Dr. King said, we're going to talk about reparations when we go to DC, we're coming to get our check. Even Dr. King started talking about the class issue. And then after that, they killed Dr. King. So if you have women that are a part of your movement that were also part of the civil rights movement, which was also starting to talk about the class struggle, how could you not talk about class along with feminism?
Facts.
Because once you start to bring in the economic perspective, a lot of the affluent white women that were a part of the second wave of feminism, it doesn't apply to them.
It don't apply to them. And then they go home to their husband, and you go home single. They be having their families and everything, man, and they inheritance and all this. You go home single by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Facts. And I heard, and I'm on live breaking news. They say a plane just crashed in DC. I'm gonna talk about that. I'm gonna get on the plane crash in a little while. You know what I'm saying? All right. So a plane just crashed in DC. So I'm gonna get on that right now.
Because they're in a different class. She wasn't really trying to help women get to where they needed to get to. This is what people have to grasp from this. At the end of the day, the women, the Black women who were alongside Gloria Steinem, they still had to go back to neighborhoods. They still had to deal with Jim Crow laws. They still had to deal with redlining. They still had to deal with, you talk about healthcare.
Facts.
You talk about reproductive rights.
Right.
They still had to deal with the fact.
See, the white women, they stopped talking about that after that. They're like, oh, what? Healthcare rights for everybody else? Rights and healthcare for Black women? I'm gone. I can't relate. Oh, it's time to go.
That Black women have the highest rate of maternal death in the U.S. still today.
They do set us up.
That's been an ongoing issue. They still had to deal with that. And Gloria Steinem's feminism did not center those issues because she was not affected. In order to have an effective movement for people who are marginalized, you have to center the marginalized positions. You have to center those issues. That wave of feminism did not do that. And of course, also Susan B. Anthony's first wave of feminism also didn't do that. It excluded Black women.
But my thing is, why were Black women even involved in that then? If you knew that this is what doesn't make no sense. It was stupid about this, right? So my thing is, I guess the Black women were thinking only the white man was racist. I don't know. That's what I'm taking out of it. The vibe I get out of it is y'all was just thinking that, or they, excuse me, not y'all. They were just thinking at the time that only white men were racist. And that was weird. Because they're the same people. Only one's a man and one's a woman. You feel me? So I guess you trusted the white women. I guess they at that time trusted the white women. I guess so. You didn't trust the Black man. You wasn't messing with the Black man, but you trust the white woman to tell you that your man ain't shit. Something's wrong with you. Something ain't wrong with the white woman. Something's wrong with you for believing that BS. Black men fall into some of this bull. We all fall into this motherfucking bullshit, man. But that was bad.
Let's go on a little bit more here.
That was real bad.
He goes on to say the gender versus class debacle. So this is where we get into this part. Gloria wanted feminism to be all about gender, not class, because nothing screams empowerment like ignoring the systemic economic disparities that disproportionately affect women of color, right? Let's raise our champagne flutes to the audacity of it all. Who cares if the working class women can't afford health care or decent childcare or decent health care? As long as we're smashing patriarchy, the rest is just background noise.
Yeah.
Lucy moves the football. So let's get to that part. Or did I get to that part yet? Because they do mention one of the things that she did right was founding Miss Magazine. But I was trying to get to the football part. Maybe I passed it already. Oh, I haven't gotten to that one yet. Okay, that gets to this one. Okay. While feminism failed to deliver progress for Black women, and this is another part, right? So when you look at feminism, and especially that second wave, many people assume the women's movement uplifts all women because, after all, birds of a feather flock together. However, looks can be deceiving. The women's movement historically prioritized the needs of white, affluent women, denigrating Black women. Feminism failed to address the unique intersection of sexism and racism Black women experience. The agenda prioritized strengthening women's liberties as opposed to universal civil rights for Americans. This is another.
There we go. There they go with that civil rights again, that nonsense. Instead of human rights, they're hitting you with the civil rights. Pay attention, man.
Thing. Black women cannot separate their womanhood from their race. Society pulls Black women in two different directions, each with a unique magnetic force. They fought alongside white feminists throughout history to improve women's lives alongside Black men to make advances in the Black community. Black women lack the resources to land a full-throated fight against sexism while ignoring the role of systemic racism. White women have the privilege of never needing to consider their race when fighting for their rights. Likewise, Black men never have to fear their sex holding them back socioeconomically. This is what people have to get. So there were also times when white feminists supported white racism.
Oh yeah, of course. See, they wasn't, of course, because they wasn't trying to fight for you, me, the Black women then, Black women now. That's not the whole damn point, man. The whole point is they're not really trying to do that for Black women. It's just some bullshit. It's just to get Black women aboard some bullshit. More brainwashing tactics, more nothing burgers. A good old fried nothing burger. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. That's the whole point. Not doing nothing for them from the start. I mean, latching on, oh man, I can't men this and men that, man. That's not, oh man, that's the whole point. And that's the problem right there, too. Trying to compete with a damn man. Different roles, man. Different roles. We got two different roles. You know what I'm saying? It's funny because when a man tries to compete with a woman, guess what? He's probably a transgender or something like that. You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying. When a man, you know, when a woman tries to compete with a man, it's just like, oh, she's just independent and she could do her own thing and she has her own money, and it's very interesting how it's just a double standard. It's very weird. I don't know. Imagine if the average man was trying to compete with a woman? How weird would that be? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Business taxes
Commercials,
is
bloody
always
commercials.
so all-consuming.
BS tax season. You know, it's another scam.
And the Black women were left standing by on their own. This is why when you see that women's march, the women's march after Trump won in 2016, look around, you notice you didn't see that many Black people out there. You don't see that many Black women. This is why we don't raise our hand to sign up and volunteer for those types of things, because of the way that feminism has done Black women in the past. We are not centered in the movement. Our issues are not centered in the movement. And Gloria Steinum is no different. This woman's face was all throughout my history books as the woman of feminism, Gloria Steinum this and Gloria Steinum that. And the issues that she was fighting for Were they really beneficial for Black women?
Hell no, they weren't. That's the whole point.
I don't think so. It goes on to say here, we'll get into Lucy holding the football, because I think this is the part. Here it is. Lucy holding the football. White women are like Lucy from the iconic Peanuts comic strip. Fans will remember she repeatedly held the football, encouraging him to run towards her and kick it. Each time Charlie Brown ran, building up speed, only to be disappointed because Lucy yanked the ball away at the last minute. Wow. Black women are the Charlie Brown of the women's movement because white feminists often offer an olive branch, but instead give toxic oleander. Instead of deliverables, Black women receive stagnation and neglect. So there's Lucy moving the football. And here's an example here. While both Black and white women sought advancement, they did so for different reasons. Their methods of expanding rights reflect this disparity. In the aftermath of the Civil War, many white suffragists attempted to gain rights equal with their fathers, husbands, and brothers. However, Black women fought to secure rights to improve their lives in their communities.
Oh, yeah.
This part is also incredibly important. And then in this article, they go into the suffragettes and this part right here about the failure. The feminist movement failed to account for the different ways in which Black and white women view patriarchy. Under white-dominated male governance, Black and white women suffered many indignities. However, discriminatory practices prevented Black men from gaining power. Thus, comparing white patriarchy to Black patriarchy is like comparing apples to oranges. While it is true that Black men benefit from the male-dominated system, their benefit is significantly less than white men and works in different ways. So this is what I'm going to say about this. The example that I want to bring to you is that fight that Gloria Steinum had, we're going to fight for the right to work in the workplace alongside our white male counterparts. We're going to fight for the rights to burn our bras. We're going to fight for the rights and all those kind of things. That style of feminism was always trying to align itself with white patriarchy.
Oh, yeah. You know it.
It was always trying to align itself to be in the same position as white men. Black women were trying to fight for the entire community. So while Gloria Steinem is out there saying, let's go fight for the right to work with these guys and da-da-da, Black women were already working.
Mic drop.
In other words,
mic drop.
That wasn't for us.
Mic drop. Nobody talks about that, though. Damn. What's normal? That's interesting. Very interesting. Good point.
That style of feminism was not for us. Alice Walker even criticizes this. She came up with her own term. She decided to call it womanism.
Womanism.
And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say this was not for.
Yeah, these people make all these broad ambiguous terms and all these BS, this and that, and this ism and this, and it's just a bunch of BS, man. It's a bunch of just psyop. Just see if you basically just psychological experiments, just to see if you engineer consent, see if you're going to follow the next phrase or if you're going to repeat it or if you're going to, it's just, I don't know, man. I just take this as all a game. I'm saying? That's how I look at it. It's a damn game. You know what I'm saying? It's BS, man. At the end of the day. It's BS. You know, it was BS. Trust me, y'all. You know, my bad.
For us. And then I got to talk about the family dynamic. Believe what you want to believe, but we got to go down this angle. Because you see, well, during that wave of feminism, like telling women, you know, we got to fight for our reproductive rights, which I agree. Yes, that's a healthcare issue. But a lot of those women that were white feminists, they still went on to either they already had husbands or they went on to have a husband. Even Gloria Steinem got married eventually.
Right.
Had families.
Exactly.
This was not a good message for Black women. How did this affect Black women down the line?
But see, but I mean, y'all didn't, but they kind of outsmarted y'all though. And you can't say it was men, it was other women outsmarted y'all. They got married, they had their little white picket fence, white family, literally. You know what I'm saying? While y'all stayed, you know what I'm saying? I mean, don't get me wrong, Black men and women were still getting married throughout the 90s, but it was start declining, man. With that, when you seen that 2000s come, it just everything changed. You see what I'm saying? They were the ones still getting married, had the white picket. I mean, even though divorce is on the rise, no matter no matter what race. You see what I'm saying? But still, back in them days, man, they tricked y'all. They was still getting married. They still had the white picket fence and everything, and the dog and the cats and whatever else kind of animals they do. You see what I'm saying? So you see what I'm saying? While y'all was playing that role. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to be with nobody role. You know what I'm saying? I could be better off by myself. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Why would somebody want to be better off by themselves? Why would anybody want to be by themselves, especially a female, a woman? Why would you want to be by yourself? Is a woman's nature really be by herself? No, it's not. See, that's what I'm saying. And they got us thinking abnormal with their abnormal culture. You see what I'm saying? This abnormal, local, quote unquote, low key Western way of thinking, Western society. My bad. You see what I'm saying? Whatever the hell that's supposed to be, Western, right? You know what I'm saying? We think Billy the Kid's gonna come out of somewhere or something. But I'm talking about. So I mean, what do y'all really think about this? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do y'all really think about all this, man? It's just like, got you. You know, that's how I take it. They fooled you. They fooled you. You see what I'm saying? Into thinking that it's okay. Into thinking that, damn it, that it's okay to be single. You see what I'm saying? Thinking it's okay to not have a man. I mean, I just really think that's crazy. I really don't think that makes any sense. You see what I'm saying? This man is amazing for you. Yeah, that's propaganda brainwashing. The show is like a mug. It is brainwashing. That's all it is.
We can point to someone like Terry McMillan. Terry McMillan, who wrote Waiting to Exhale.
Oh,
How Stella Got a Groove Back. Terry McMillan, at that point in time, her books were kind of known for telling Black women, you can do it on your own. You can be successful.
And then it went from Gloria Steinem, they piggybacked, then went to people like Terry McMillan and the other lady, the Black Green or whatever her first name. I don't know her first name. Alice Green or something Green. I don't know. These Black women became authors, feminists, became authors, and start. See, that's how you can get people, and you get people with propaganda through TV and through books. Reading through books and TV, right? And then look, you get the 2 for 1. The book turns into a damn a movie or a TV special or a Lifetime special. You know what I'm saying? So look at it like that. That's how I look at it. You know what I'm saying? My bad. What's this shit? So all right, hold up.
You don't need a man. Was that the right thing to say? Sure. Was that the right angle to go down to tell Black women they don't need a man? And then some women, they look around and they're in their 40s and they say, man, I changed my mind about this. I really do wish I would settle down with someone or whatever. Maybe I do want to. And then it's kind of too late because then some guys are really trying to date you.
Point. What's going on with all these major powers collapsing? Economy's collapsing. China's economy ain't doing good right now. London, Britain's economy ain't doing good right now. Of course, you already know America's economy is not doing good right now. Is this a sign from actually God, from the God? Is this a sign from the Most High? What is this a sign from? Because all these nations, all 3 of them nations are greedy, right? Look how China treats their people. Look how England, Britain took the guns from their people. Why would you take the people's guns? Oh, so you could use the military and martial law and whatever you feel like. That makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Look at how the U.S. Makes up fake, you know what I'm saying? PSYOP, scripted, pandemic, scam, demic, transdemics on people. You see what I'm saying? The U.S. robs its people, gives you that COVID relief money, but saying that it was still an emergency under emergency use authorization, but still doesn't give you no more money. Just stops the money, right? Some of these people that were getting things like what's that called? EBT gives you cuts the EBT by like hundreds of dollars, but yet giving the migrants when ordering to Joe Biden $20,000 EBT. I never heard of 20. I never heard of thousands of dollars in EBT before. I never heard nothing like that. I never heard nothing like that.
You when you're a certain age and all that kind of jazz, etc. But and I think it's one thing to say that you don't need a man, but the question that I want you to ask, what did this do to the family dynamic for Black women? While the white women were standing there, the feminist movement telling you that we need to fight alongside to work next to the white men, remember, they never walked away from the family dynamic.
Gotcha.
And I just don't know if that was great for our community.
Gotcha. Preach again, right? They didn't say they was against family. No, they went with the family. Man, they ain't dumb. They're not fools. Come on, don't work like that. And people went full throttle with it. They're like, now we're going to have our family maintain our integrity and maintain our nuclear family, but we're going to do this to make sure they do not. And it worked. And look what you got now. You got the dysfunctional families now, still to this day. You got dudes having 3 or 4 baby daddies. You got women having 3 or 4 baby mamas. You got women having 3 or 4 baby daddies. Very dysfunctional, man. Out of whack. That's government policies, man. That structure, all that, man. Lack of structure. You see what I'm saying? Feminist movement. That the weak civil rights movement. All the above, man. Plus more.
And maybe some people say, may not agree, but I don't know if that was a great idea because I have to say this. When I watched Waiting to Exhale back in the day, and at the end of the movie, I see all the women ended up alone.
Oh.
I'm like, okay. They dated guys weren't good for them. They ended up alone. And then one of the women who was pregnant also ended up alone. I felt like the message that Terry McMillan was trying to send is that as a woman, you can do it all on your own. Okay, great. But why aren't we sending a message to keep the father in the home?
Oh, because that's not what the government wants. That's not what the daddy.
And I don't want people to even think this is not even a right-wing talking point, but I'm just going to be real with you right now.
Hell no,
there is nothing like having the dad in the home. I grew up in a 2-parent household. Some of my cousins did not.
That's the right thing.
And even they will tell you the difference.
See, everything is too political.
So sometimes I wonder if that type of feminism was actually good for Black women.
Ethical, it gets too political, man, a lot of times, man.
And I don't think it was. And when I look at the impact it had on the civil rights movement, I'm very concerned by that. And I'm very concerned by that because you have 2 movements now happening at the same time. And when that all started, now Gloria Steinum was able to make the case that white women were also marginalized. Right. And now that white women were also marginalized, now they can be a part of a.
Guess what? Here comes affirmative action. Here comes certain things like that, man. And that's what you get the DEI now. Telling you. I'm telling y'all. I'm just saying.
Affirmative action. Does everybody see how this works? So now you have added other people to our struggle. And since you added other people to our struggle, what that means is that our needs, once again, are going to be pushed to the bottom of the list. I just told you that the DEI, so-called DEI hires that happened at my previous employer were white women, not Black people. Gloria Steinem's second wave of feminism was able to prove that white women were also marginalized. Then we have this term minorities. So now it's not just about Black people fighting for civil rights. Now it's, oh, we got to help white women too. So there have been many times when I say, yes, she was a CIA op. She worked for the CIA. I felt like Gloria Steinem was thrown in to take the attention off of the civil rights movement, to derail it from us getting what we really should have gotten, which was reparations to begin with in the first damn place. I feel like that's what that really was about.
And there's a couple other things. Shout out to Savvy Sab. She's right. Salute to her. Shout out to her channel, man. Check her out. Y'all get the likes up, share this out to y'all social media. Get the likes up, and share this out. I ain't done yet. I'm about to get off in a little while, but I ain't done yet. We cooking right now. You know what I'm saying? Get them likes up, share it out. You know, subscribe to the channel if you ain't subscribed, all right? You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna play a little bit of national news in a little while too. Oops. All right, has to get some stories going, current events going, man. So shout out to Black Jack. You know what I'm saying? He got a little series called "How the Civil Rights Movement Went Left." Let me play a little bit of this. I want to play one short one. Damn, this is a short one. Let's go. Okay, let's play this. I'm gonna play a little bit of this. All right. And let's talk about the civil rights movement, man. All right. Share this out, y'all. Get the likes up. Share this out. Get the likes up. Share it out. Share it out. Hit the algorithm. I said that. So I sounded like I was in the Midwest when I said that.
Now, that may not mean anything to you, but trust me, that's a big deal. And I'll explain it in a second. The beef that these guys had was so crazy. By the time King goes to Chicago in 1966, he wants to do this movement in Chicago to get rid of slum housing, right? Deal with poverty, different things like that. Reverend Jackson is actually out front opposing King. Jackson is actually working with Chicago's mayor, Richard J. Daley, to oppose King, to defeat King, and tell him to get back down south. Jackson actually forbids all of the Baptist ministers. He forbids them working with King. He says, do not work with him. He forbids them from going to any of King's rallies, like nothing. With friends like this, whom he's enemies. I mean, they had beef. Now, if you think that's crazy, when King dies, 1968, right, April 4th, 1968, Jackson's church in Chicago is located on a street called South Parkway. So somebody has a bright idea. Let's rename the church. I'm sorry, rename the street to, MLK Drive. And in fact, it was renamed to King Drive. Jackson hated King so much that he changed the address of his church. He changed the address to be on the cross street so that his church address would not read Martin Luther King Drive. That's how much he hated this man. Like, that's how big the beef was. But I'm telling you, it was the biggest missed opportunity on the planet. You got to understand, we think Dr. King is a big deal. Of course, he has a national holiday, he's the man. But if you go back to the 1950s, that's not what it was. Jackson was the man. He's the president of the National Baptist Convention. Again, that may not mean anything to you, but E. Franklin Frazier, who's a very well-known sociologist back in the day, Frazier said that being the president of the National Baptist Convention is like being the Black president of the United States. The National Baptist Convention was the largest Black religious organization in the world. It had 5 or 6 million people in it. Haley Branch, who's a historian, he calls Jackson the Negro Pope. That's huge. That's a big deal. You command the largest religious organization in the world for Black people. Jackson was the man. So you got to get in your head, we're thinking from 2024, King's the man. No. Jackson was the man. He was elected president of the National Baptist Convention in 1953. He's the dude. But you got to remember, the Montgomery bus boycott pops off a couple years after. And King is becoming sort of a national figure. He's on the cover of Time magazine, okay? And by that time, people are urging King like, yo, you should run for president. And King said, no, I'm cool on that. Now, take a step back. When King is doing the Montgomery bus boycott, Jackson actually goes down there to speak, to support the movement. Jackson also sends 2 checks for $1,000 each. One of them was from the National Baptist Convention, and one was from his congregation to support the Montgomery movement. Daddy King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s father, says that Jackson even offered to pay for a bus to help the boycott. Incidentally, Daddy King also helped Jackson get elected president a few years before the boycott, like I said, in 1953. Jackson was friends with King's family. He had been to their home. Like,
these people are all Masons. These people are all down with these secret societies, these same groups. Trust me. There's not a coincidence that they all know each other. He happened to know it, King's pop. It's not just because they were all in the church. Trust me on that.
Like, Dr. King admired him as a little boy growing up. Like, he's the guy. Okay? He's the guy. But when King starts blowing up, King's on the cover of magazines, and people are whispering.
Sound like Malcolm X, right? With the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X. Don't it sound a little bit like that?
Like, yo, King, he should be the president. That's when things kind of start turning for Jackson. The other part about it is this. Not only is King blowing up, but Jackson feels some kind of way because King blew up using his style. I interviewed Reverend Timothy Fleming in Atlanta. In 1996, he was appointed as the director of the media ministry of the National Baptist Convention. So he has all this really rare archival footage of Reverend Jackson and other folks. I interviewed him for like over an hour at his church, and he told me like King stole Jackson's style, like even his speaking style, his public speaking. And he played me some tapes, and I was like, oh, no, for real, King stole his style. So Jackson was looking at this young cat, stole my style, trying to come from my spot. Actually, I'm not feeling you. And the beef kind of starts. Now, people who are apologists for Jackson, they will say, well, no, it wasn't all just that. It wasn't just jealousy. They had real philosophical differences. Jackson was just a really conservative guy. He was a Republican. He believed that we should, obey.
A Republican. Oh, he was a Republican. He wasn't a Democrat. He was different from King, but see, so was King. King was a Republican. They was both Republicans. You see how this dude was a no-nonsense dude. It sounded like this guy was no joke. He didn't take none of that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't, and they like, oh, it takes King shine. But like dude just said, I think King took some of his ideas, right? He knew his King's daddy. This guy sounded like he's either older than King or just had more clout. Blame is shifting. It's not. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, yeah, they shift blame all the time.
The laws and use the courts to address the grievances. He wasn't with the direct action, nonviolent stuff. He just thought that was a lot. People going to jail. It just brings violence. He just wasn't with it. Yeah, but you were with it in Montgomery, so what changed, right? I mean, it's just, okay.
See how these people flip-flop? They're not really what's the real progress with these people really trying to gain? Honestly, and then you got to think about it like this in a time like that. Why would you push any nonviolence? You see what I'm saying? Oh, I'm gonna use that to get this pass and this pass to be docile. As a man and as the kids and in the young generation, you're teaching them to be docile against the enemy. Oh, that's a great tactic. And you're not pushing for, you just pushing for inclusion, but you're not trying to push for any kind of legislation for your people. What was the legislation that these people in the civil rights movement was pushing? What was the legislation? Oh, civil rights. No kind of, okay, we want our own, we're going to stay segregated, but at the same time, this is what we want. This is what we need. None of that. No kind of shifting for resources. These cats, man, I'm telling you.
Got it. So this thing is going on. There's this beef. It starts to really pick up steam because the National Baptist Convention, the constitution of the organization said, look, if you become president, you're supposed to only have 4 terms. Jackson's is like, I hear you, but like, I'm the guy. And he just keeps going. Year after year, he just keeps being the president. And people are like, yo, my man, I thought it was supposed to be 4 terms. Well, some preachers, people like Gardner C. Taylor, people like Martin Luther King Jr. are like, yo, my man, you should probably chill out. They actually take Jackson to court a couple of times. And each time the judge sides with Jackson. So they cannot get him out the paint. It goes real left in 1960. They have a convention, National Baptist Convention. They have their annual convention. And they say, okay, we got to get a new president. At the end of the convention, Jackson's like, I'm the president still. Gardner C. Taylor is like, well, actually, I'm the president. So we got 2 people talking about I'm the president. Then it really goes left in 1961. They have a convention in Kansas City. It goes to a place where it gets violent. There are factions pro and against. and it gets physical. A guy gets knocked off of a stage or a balcony. It's not really clear. I kind of heard both stories. A punch thrown, like all kind of stuff. And this guy ends up dying a couple of days later. And so Jackson's like, this is what I'm talking about. Everywhere y'all go, and he mentions King's name, and King's like, I wasn't even there. And he wasn't. He wasn't at the 61 convention. He's like, King's like, why is my name in your mouth? But he's like, everywhere y'all go, it's violence. I'm done with y'all. Y'all can get out. So in 1961, the convention splits. So they form what's called the Progressive Baptist Convention. So King and folks like that.
That word progressive
are now they form a different organization. They break off.
Romans.
This is really unfortunate. So here's what happens. That was 1961. You know what else happened in 1961? He just has to kind of leave town, and not a whole lot happened while he was there. He's getting his butt whooped. The other thing that happens in 1961 that I think is really interesting, Jackson finds out that there are these black farmers in Tennessee who got kicked off of their land because they tried to vote. Jackson goes down there to purchase some land on their behalf so that they'll have land.
See, this is another thing that the civil rights movement never mentions. What is it? That it never mentions, and these people never mention the fact that they was taking people's land on the guise of voting. Why would you? I'm not gonna vote. I don't give a damn about no vote. You taking my land, that's more precious than a damn vote. You see how they tricked us? They tricked you to be a part of the system, and then you wanted to be a part of the system so bad, they felt that you was inalienated, and like they excluded you out instead of just you asking for your own. You had your own, and you wanted to be a part of them, so they was taking your land. Like, how man, I don't know what's wrong. What was wrong with these people back then, man? Just straight being not playing, because these people was victims, but being the victims. I'm not so playing. No, these people were victims, right? Wow, crazy.
He buys the land from a white guy. The white guy is so impressed by this, he basically says, man, this is the best, the coolest thing that y'all have done since like the Tuskegee Institute over there. This is great for Negroes. This is wonderful. I'm looking at this and I'm like, hold on. We got King getting his butt whooped in Albany, but we got 5 or 6 million people sitting on the sidelines, not fully engaged with the movement. We got Jackson buying land for Black people. Now, remember, toward the end of King's life, he starts with the Poor People's Campaign. One of the things that they wanted in the Poor People's Campaign, they wanted poor people to have land for economic development. Well, Jackson's like, yo, I'm years ahead of you. I'm doing it. And guess what? Maybe if King could have worked with Jackson, we could have bought a whole lot more land. King's fundraising was primarily, a lot of white liberals that he was getting money from. They wouldn't have funded that. But you know who could have funded that? 5 million Black people. King, if you bring your celebrity over here, we can rock out. But Jackson, why did the farmers get kicked off the land in Tennessee? Because they tried to vote. Well, I'm working on voting rights. Why don't you work with me on that? I told you I interviewed Reverend Fleming in Atlanta. He said this to me, and it had me shook. He said, if these two men could have ever got together, they would have turned this whole country upside down. And I believe that's true. But you have a situation where people are sort of whispering. It's not too much different than like Malcolm X or Elijah Muhammad. People are whispering like, yo, I think Malcolm's trying to take your spot. Same kind of thing is happening over here. If you're at all biblically literate, there's a story between David and Saul. So you remember like David and Goliath. David grows up and he's working under King Saul. Saul's the king of Israel. And Saul liked David at first. But then David starts to get popular. And then all of a sudden, you have women out here saying, Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain his tens of thousands. And Saul's like, whoa, hold on, man. Once the women started hyping up David, it became, and then Saul tries to kill David. And I think something similar is happening here between King and Jackson. Jackson sees this young cat coming and thinks he's coming for my spot. King never wanted to be president of the National Baptist Convention. And in fact, Daddy King writes Jackson at one point before he kicked King out of the convention to say, look, ML, King's family and his friends called him ML. ML's not coming for you, man. Jackson didn't want to hear all that. He didn't want to work with him. But God, if they could have ever gotten together and 5 or 6 million Black people could have been mobilized. And if King could have brought his celebrity to some things that Jackson was doing, could have turned this entire country upside down. But it didn't because of ego. Again, Timothy Fleming, I really thank him for his time, for really, putting me on. But his thing is, no matter what King did, Jackson was never going to work with him. It didn't matter. And maybe that's true. But I still would challenge King. I mean, I obviously can't challenge King because, obvious reasons. But I'm just wondering, Martin Luther King Jr. built an entire career going to the mat, risking it all, risking life and limb to integrate with white people who made it very clear that I want nothing to do with you and I want nothing. I mean, I don't want to be bothered, but you risked it all to still try to be with them. And I have to wonder, was there nothing you could have done to integrate with your brother, Reverend Jackson? Was this really the guy to beef with? If you were willing to risk your life to integrate with white folk, could there not have been some level of a campaign aimed at reconciling with Reverend Jackson for the greater good? And for both men, maybe you didn't rock with each other on the same stuff, but what could you work together on? What areas of cooperation could there have been? King didn't have to necessarily do all this in the name of the National Baptist Convention. He didn't do the Montgomery bus boycott in the name of the National Baptist Convention. So you didn't have to agree on everything, but what were the things that you could have worked together on?
Right.
And so even in 2024, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I get that y'all didn't like each other, but like this beef really cost Black people dearly. And so it is today. We have leaders, whether it's politicians, pastors, entertainers, like all these so-called leaders, everybody beefing about something. And meanwhile, people are suffering. And so it's like, but what can we get together on?
Exactly.
We're looking backwards at
all
King and
control
Jackson and
opposition,
saying, man,
baby.
y'all little beef really cost us.
Nothing's ever going to get done, just like in Washington. It's the same thing. They're all getting paid to cause this confusion, to be agents of chaos. That's all it is. And to act like they're our leaders, or, you know what I'm saying, like they have some kind of plan for us. That's all it is.
Our grandchildren are going to be saying about our beef. Where can we work together? What could we accomplish? We may not agree on these other things, but you know what? These things here, let's get together on that and let's see what we can get. Now, next time, we're going to look at where the civil rights movement left. Specifically, we're going to look at how do we get these whack leaders who have no character, who have no business being where they're being, try not to call names. How do we get those people? And we're going to talk about this issue of submission. Like on social media, I hear a lot of times about, women submitting and all this kind of stuff.
Facts. That's a good, man. Shout out to, you know what I'm saying, Black Jack. Check out the channel on YouTube. Salute to him, man. He be spitting. That was a good, he got a whole series, how the civil rights movement went left. Check it out. So my brother, What's Normal, was talking about Kensington, Pennsylvania. I'm going to play like 5 minutes of this, man. Look how America, look how everything has become, man.
Internet yet? Trim your head.
Like a third world country.
It's 30.
Let's go. Share this out. Like, some lights up, share it out.
What makes Sega unique versus other companies? We have a culture where we work hard, but we play hard as well.
I've been a lifelong gamer myself. I definitely feel like I'm with my people.
Working here at Innovation Office Park definitely feels like
Damn, look at the conditions out there. That's bad, man. That ain't good. That's some fucked up conditions, man. One more, man. Sure, we'll go to California in a little while. Wow.
Oh wow. Yeah, you need some sleep. Go to rehab, okay? You have? My life.
Wow.
Come on, Derek. Derek.
Man, that's just sad, y'all. So let's speaking of RFK, you know what I'm saying? Hold on, let me see. So RFK is a liar just like the rest of them, right? Let's talk about how RFK is a liar. So let's switch topics. We want to switch topics real quick, you know what I'm saying? Let me get into this, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my boy Zach Hubbard, you know what I'm saying? Gematria Effect, salute. The whole nine, you know what I'm saying? Let's get into it. Fair use.
You know what separates the good wedding DJs from the great ones? It's not just talent, it's preparation.
Yeah, it's sad how they got them people out there, man.
Sound like they're being
Where's the social programs for those people out there, man? Where's the social program? You can make a lot of money. You get some good, clean, you know what I'm saying, drug prevention programs, some good, you know what I'm saying, rehabilitation programs, state of the art, man. Come on, man. They don't care though. It's not about rehabilitation. It's about keeping people like that, just like keeping people sick. Same thing. Keeping the pharmaceutical companies in business.
Did live?
All right. Again, that good little Jesuit when he gave his first speech about while he's running for president, or
All right, let's
cut.
shout out to Zach
So
Hubbard.
imagine
We're going in on our
circumcising a
kid.
brand new baby and they don't have any agents in their body to stop the bleeding. They bleed out and die. So that's why they want to give the vitamin K shot in case your baby gets a cut, so they don't bleed out in the opening days. But again, I mean, as long as you're taking care of your baby and you're not, dropping it on the ground or tossing them across the room, in all likelihood, that's not going to happen. And the thing is, it's just the vitamin K itself isn't going to be dangerous to the baby, but you look at the shot and its ingredients, there's a lot of additives and preservatives in there. And, it's a reminder about the preservatives. A common one is mercury. Mercury. Again, Wednesday's named after Mercury. Do you remember when Donald Trump declared Operation Warp Speed the father of the jab? He declared it on May 15th, which is Mercuralia. Yeah, if you didn't know that, look it up. May 15th, Mercuralia every year, the day to celebrate Mercury. And again, that medical symbol that I cannot pronounce, caduceus, whatever it is. The thing with the snakes on it, the staff with the snakes, has to do with Hermes, who's related to Mercury. I lost my train of thought, but I'm ultimately making the point about Mercury, and here we are on Wednesday, as they're, doing the confirmation hearing for the Georgetown prep grad. By the way, in gematria, Georgetown equals 129. Here we are on 1/29 with the Georgetown prep grad on the stand. Yeah. And don't forget, when he had his anti-mandate lockdown, he did it on Georgetown's birthday, January 23rd. Again, that good little Jesuit, when he gave his first speech about while he's running for president, or why he's running for president, he did it April 19th, Ignatius of Loyola Day. That's the founder of the Jesuits, who became the first superior general on that day in history. But yeah, it's just so hard to know who to trust in this day and age. There's a lot of things about Robert Kennedy that he's done in the past that I like. If you watched his testimony this morning, he seemed a lot like a politician. He was getting asked about things he's written in his book, things he said, direct quotes, and he just shrugged his shoulders and everything. He's like, I don't remember if I wrote that. Well, that's not. It's like, dude, just stand on it. Just say, yeah, I did say that. If I wrote all those things, and I'd say, yeah, I did say that. I'd be talking like today. I'd say, yeah, you know why I did say that? Because take a look around. In my generation, we got 5 shots. These kids today get 72 shots.
Damn. 72?
Fat, obese,
72. Golly, bro. Oh, shit.
Dying, SIDS, autism, heart disease, cancer. He's like, does this look like medical advancement, or does it look like medical tyranny where you're persecuted for questioning anything? I mean, to me, it's obviously the latter. That's how we should have came out about it, not like, well, it's just like, dude, I mean, talk about just looking like a total politician. So, again, Snake Man, RFK Jr., the snake, on the first day of the year of the snake. By the way, did you see what his cousin said? She called him the Predator, which is funny because Predator equals 119, like here we are with the 119th Congress with the other Jesuit scumbag Donald Trump, Mr. Tarot Cards. Tarot cards also equals 119, the top cards in the deck are Trump cards, 78 cards in the tarot deck. Trump reclaims the throne at age 78, as we said 4 years ago. By the way, the Lake and Hope Riley Act just passed 78 days after the Superior General's birthday with Trump's signature. Just like how his first day in office, he rescinded 78 Biden-era executive orders. Biden, who also took office in 78, who was also Jesuit educated. But hold on, let me get my train of thought back. The biggest problem with being a new parent is just not getting sleep. Some days are better than others, but last night this one did not want to sleep. She's been mostly sleeping today. But okay, coming back to this thing. So tomorrow we're gonna have to go battle it out with the doctors, just like I had to battle it out with the doctors when she was born. They made us sign a waiver at the hospital when she was born for refusing medical advice. They brought in 3 different doctors to try and convince me to give her the vitamin K shot. And you know what, though, about that experience, I talked about it before, but I'll talk about it again. I felt like I had good arguments for those doctors, and I kind of felt like they kind of backed down and conceded to what I was saying. And I was pretty much saying things just like I'm saying on this video. I was saying, listen, you guys claim to not have any answers for why there's all these problems with kids. And really the only things changing in the world are the genetically modified foods and the huge expansion of the vaccine schedule. I feel like I'd rather just take our chances and make sure we take good care of our daughter, put her on the healthiest diet. But yeah, I will do my research on what shots, do make the most sense. If you are going to get that MMR shot, I've heard that you should wait till closer to like age 4 or 5 rather than take it at 2, when a lot of parents see the conversion of their child from a normal child to a no longer responsive, very distant, awkwardly behaving human being, which again is a testimony that God knows how many people have in this world. And by the way, the doctor, the doctor who they persecute, who did that research on the MMR shot, if you look into his research, his advice was to not get the MMR and instead wait till your child's a little bit older and get the vaccines one at a time rather than the 3-in-1. Because again, the MMR stands for measles, mumps, and rubella. You can get the shots separately rather than all at one, which can overwhelm the body, especially a young little infant. Again, they talk about that guy like he's just like the biggest trash doctor there ever was, conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat misleader, but it's like, his research seems to be in line with a lot of people's actual life experience. And again, it was Google who took down all of the videos in 2012 for people who shared that story. And by the way, that was one of the things that prompted me to start making videos the very next year. I saw, oh man, they just censored an important topic. What's going to be next? And then remember, Sandy Hook happened at the end of 2012, and you had Anderson Cooper and the other losers on TV telling people that, man, we need to take down these people questioning the news. These people need to be censored. How dare they question the news? And then sure enough, they were taken down. When I lost my first channel on Elon Musk's birthday, June 28, 2017, once the Trump took office, after Trump said he'd like to censor all of his critics, it was for videos that were made back then about the Sandy Hook thing. 5 years of work, over 5,000 videos taken down from videos made years ago. With very valid information that everybody should look into. And the way they mock everybody too. Don't forget that the first person to get the vaccine for COVID, her name was Sandy Lindsay, and it was on the anniversary of Sandy Hook. Yeah, don't forget that. And for people who don't know, Sandy Hook opened in 1956. The shooting happened 56 years later in 2012. The name of the shooter, Adam Peter Lanza, equals 56 in gematria. Just like how 56 was all over the scandemic, coronavirus equals 56, COVID vaccine equals 56, Anthony Fauci 56, the scandemic began 56 years after Trump's Jesuit education began, on and on and on.
Listen, paying $14.99 a month for a streaming app and $9.99 a month for a music app.
Shout out to salute to Zach Hubbard, man. You know what I'm saying? He be on it, man. He be on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to play one more of his videos, man, and I'm going to go on to something else and I'm going to get off it. So
78-year-old Trump signed the Laken-Riley Act 78 days after the Superior General's birthday, and he says if it wasn't for that story and what he promised to do about it, he would not have won the election. Well, of course, we know the elections are all rigged and scripted, and we knew 78 was a huge number for why he would return to office at this age. Remember, in gematria, Cleveland equals 78, and Grover Cleveland was the only split-term president before Trump, who had his convention in Cleveland back in 2016. Of course, he's Mr. Tarot cards, and there's 78 cards in the deck, and the oldest tarot deck remaining goes back to Italy, the land of the Catholic Church and the Jesuits who serve the Catholic Church. And notice, again, today's 78 days after the Superior General's birthday. In Gematria, Superior General equates to 222, just like Lakin Hope Riley equates to 222. And remember, the story was this 22-year-old girl was killed on February 22nd, 2/22. And the killer was Venezuelan, just like how the Superior General is from Venezuela, just like that Tren de Aragua gang where every single news story about that's perfectly synced with the Superior General. Don't forget it was the Superior General's birthday, November 12th, where Lakin Hope Riley's killer said he did not want a trial. Pretty strange thing to do. Usually you want a trial so you have a chance of being found innocent or having your sentence reduced. But he decided that on the Superior General's birthday. Again, we were educating from day one how the Jesuit fingerprints were all over this entire thing. Again, Donald Trump's Jesuit educated, as is Biden, has his RFK Jr., as is almost everyone in D.C. Again, that's where the Jesuits set up camp. But also just about this news being by the numbers, it's called the Lakin Riley Act, which has a gematria value of 75, like Catholic Church, like order out of chaos. Today's date numerology is 75. You get that by adding 1 plus 29 plus 20 plus 25 for January 29th, 2025. Of course, that would break down to 12 and then 3, but the path along the way is 75, just like how, again, Lakin Riley Act equates to 75. And it was January 7th that the Congress pledged that they were going to get this done. And then the Congress voted on this last Wednesday, 71 days after the Superior General's birthday. Catholic equates to 71. And just to read a little bit about the vote and the passing today by Trump, President Donald Trump on Wednesday signed. Oh, but don't forget that Trump's first day in office, his first thing that he did was rescinded 78 Biden era.
And they both 78. Biden came in at 78. Trump came back in at 78. Biden's first term at 78. Trump's second term at 78. Pay attention.
Executive actions. Biden also took office at 78. Also Jesuit educated. The word Jesuit equates to 78 for the record. President Donald Trump on Wednesday signed an immigration detention measure into law, marking the first legislative win of his second term as the Republican-led Congress angles to execute his agenda. The House gave its final approval of the bill in a 263. Remember, 263 is the 56 prime Society of Jesus equals 56, like Washington, D.C. 263 to 56 votes last Wednesday, with 46 Democrats joining all Republicans in favor, and that's after number 46, when Catholic equals 46. And just like how we told you in 2020, Biden would become number 46, 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, going with the 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament. The measure also passed the Senate last week in a 64 to 35 vote, with 12 Democrats breaking with their party to back it. 78 is the 12th triangular number. Means if you had 1 through 12, it equals 78. It's like how in the rigged 78th NBA Finals last year, which we called before the season began, why the team that equals 78, the Boston Celtics, would win it when it started on their 78th birthday. The reason I'm bringing it up is because they outscored the Mavericks by 12 total points in the series. You learn your numbers, you see through the rigged system, the ritualism. Trump opened his remarks, and don't forget they won their only game, the Mavericks, on Trump's 78th birthday, and he's friends with the Adelson family, and they run casinos, and his wife bought the team by the numbers, the Mavericks, before they made an unprecedented run to make it in the playoffs and took a lot of gamblers' money. Of course, Trump's in the casino business, too. He's part of the rigged game. Trump opened his remarks with a victory lap, crediting his immigration agenda for his victory in the election and thanking the Republican and Democratic lawmakers who sent the bill to his desk. That's why I'm here instead of somebody else. Actually, it's the biggest reason, Trump said in remarks in the East Wing of the White House as he touted what he called the landmark law that is going to save countless innocent American lives. Yeah. Just like how we'll all be on our best behavior once their AI surveillance state's built. In big Jesuit tech Santa Clara and Silicon Valley. But yeah, again, just another perfect 78 ritual. How many perfect 78 rituals do you think there'll be in the time of Trump being 78 years old? We got until June 14th. Yeah, I think we hit all the main points here, True Sigger.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll sign off from there.
Man.
Again, Lake
Salute.
and Hope Riley equals 222, Superior General 222. The news broke on February 22nd that the 22-year-old girl had had her life taken by a illegal immigrant. And if that story is true, you know that one was brought in extra special with Jesuit sauce all over him.
All right, salute. So y'all check out Gematria Fakes 25 News, YouTube. Check out Zach Hubbard, man. Salute. You know what I'm saying? He be dropping the good knowledge on Gematria. So let's talk about this, man. Okay, hold up. So, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk about this stuff, man. That's going on, man. Let me look into my phone quick. A lot of stuff going on, man. You know what I'm saying? Trump been in office a week. A lot of madness going on already, man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of overreacting, but a lot of righteous feedback. This dude over the freeze over a couple things he's doing. A lot of people ain't really feeling. Hold up. So he's talking about identify, report, and deport anti-Semites. Okay, let's see. All right, let's get this. Let's talk about this. I have to play this. Very interesting. My bad. Sorry about that.
In an executive order aimed at combating anti-Semitism, President Donald Trump pledges to deport non-citizen college students and resident aliens who participated in pro-Palestinian protests. According to a White House fact sheet, Trump will direct the Justice Department to take strong action against terroristic threats, arson, vandalism, and violence targeting American Jews. The administration asserts that campuses have become infested with radicalism like never before and vows to take swift action against those involved in such demonstrations. Trump's statement puts foreign students on notice, warning that beginning in 2025, authorities will seek out and deport individuals who join pro-jihadist protests. His administration emphasizes that this policy is part of broader efforts to curb anti-Semitism and ensure national security. The move has sparked debate over free speech and immigration policies, with critics warning of potential overreach and legal challenges.
Wow, very interesting. So I mean, this could be, I don't even know. The thing is, what if that was really true? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying this all could be a psyop, but what if that was really true? We are seeing retaliation from the Elon Musk. Elon Musk is censoring people on X right now. See what I'm saying? All right, let me go right here. So this is the article right here, real quick, man. You know what I'm saying? Can y'all see it? And this is Fox News. I don't know about Fox News. I don't trust Fox News. I don't trust none of them. President Trump signed an executive order Wednesday instructing federal agencies to identify all civil and criminal authorities available to combat anti-Semitism, including finding ways to deport anti-Jewish activists who violated laws. The order, our first reported post, requires the agency department leaders to provide the White House with recommendations in 60 days. Outlines plans to Justice Department investigating pro-Hamas graffiti and intimidation, including college campuses. Jewish students have faced an unrelated barrage of discrimination, denial, and access to campus comment. But see, who is running? You got Jewish people running these organizations. How they? I don't get that. Interesting, man. So I mean, is this retaliation? What is this, man? Why would you? So it's an executive order in place, man. So that's I mean, you was gonna get it regardless. You're gonna get it. You were gonna get it with Kamala in there, him in there. Y'all was gonna get the pro Israel stuff regardless. You know what I'm saying? Wow. We ain't got no rights. They got all the rights. All right, so that's how that works. Very interesting. That's crazy, man. That is wild. Let's do this one right here. Put like 5 minutes of this.
But here we are. By now, you probably have heard the basics of what Ronald Reagan believed in and stood for: the veneration of capitalism, the hatred of the federal government, and the worship of wealth and the wealthy. But what you haven't heard is how all these ideas together provided the ideological ammunition needed to prepare America for fascist authoritarianism. Reagan's first goal wasn't political, it was ideological. Before he could change how Americans voted or what they voted for, he had to change the way they thought, convincing them, contrary to the conventional wisdom at the time, that government couldn't be relied upon to meaningfully improve people's lives. He famously
engineering consent, that Edward Bernays type, going attack the people's conscience, attack the people's thoughts and how they think. You get them to do anything. You study the people.
Declared, government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem. With that line, Reagan wasn't just taking a swipe at bureaucrats. He was remaking the entire political consensus that had defined the nation since the Great Depression and New Deal. That consensus had shown people that government can actually do some pretty amazing things when it wants to. It could create a robust social safety net, invest in public services, and build an economy that delivered the most broadly shared prosperity in human history. So how do you convince people that the very public programs responsible for their economic security, healthcare, and social mobility are somehow bad for them? Easy. Good old-fashioned racism. Given today's rampant paranoia about socialism and right-wing fear-mongering about anything remotely left of center, it may be hard to believe, but Americans weren't always so skeptical of public investments and social welfare programs. In fact, there was such a time when such benefits were considered essential to the flourishing of society and the common good, as long as the primary beneficiaries were white. Historically, many public benefits were designed to systematically exclude people of color, ensuring that the privileges of social and economic advancement remained overwhelmingly in white hands. Take the Homestead Act of 1862, for example. It promised free land grants to citizens or those eligible for citizenship. Unfortunately, at the time,
there's no comparison. There was getting tangibles. There was all these social programs, all these programs, you know what I'm saying, that had a policy, that presidents and these politicians enacted were due and given specifically to black people. You see what I'm saying? Excuse me, to white people and not to black people. Black people was excluded. The GI Bill, Homestead Act. You see what I'm saying? What's the other one? There's a couple other ones. Let's go.
That excluded Black Americans. Black people were similarly excluded during the Great Depression when government-backed home insurance programs that helped white Americans achieve home ownership systematically excluded Black citizens. Other transformative social programs of the New Deal, like the GI Bill, celebrated for their impact on American society, were also riddled with racial inequities. Racist Southern Democrats made sure that jobs predominantly held by Black workers were excluded from New Deal protections and programs. And discriminatory local administrators stopped Black veterans from accessing the educational and housing benefits promised by the GI Bill. Federal investments in infrastructure and suburban development were no better. Racial covenants and other discriminatory practices kept Black people from reaping the benefits of suburban living and home ownership. The pattern is clear. When white people were seen as the primary beneficiary of public investments and social welfare, these programs were seen as essential to the nation's prosperity. But when access to those benefits expanded, or even threatened to expand.
And see, that's the thing. These programs are given to them by, you know what I'm saying, by their people. You know what I'm saying? These white presidents and policymakers and Congress people, they was giving these people these tangibles. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, nobody, you know, and then people want to talk about, you know what I'm saying, Black women this and that. That's not even, oh, Black women this on welfare. That's not even the case. More of them on it. It was for them. It was made for them.
To include people of color, enthusiasm for public investment waned. And that's where Ronald Reagan came in. It took just over a decade after the core achievements of the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, all of which Ronald Reagan opposed, by the way, for Americans to turn against the whole equality thing. But saying it out loud kind of didn't sound great, so they had Reagan do it for them. Reagan's rhetoric about welfare queens and deadbeats wasn't just casually racist, it was deliberate. By painting federal programs as handouts for undeserving minorities, he made the American people view these programs, and by extension, the entire federal government, with contempt. Reagan's genius, if you want to call it that, was—
See, exactly. So that's what you do. You know, you push the programs for a certain amount of time, you give them to, you know, make it to where they benefit the white people, and then when, you know, other groups of people or something like that are subject to these same kind of program, then you push, you see what I'm saying? And it's because, you know, you psychologically got the people. It's psychological, get it, a psyop, you know, because it's all a project, because that's why they made the project. It was all experiment. But you know, get the people, i.e. Republicans, conservatives, to think and look down on social programs when it benefited just y'all, it was okay. But since it benefits other black people or other races, then it's a hand up or a leg. You see what I'm saying? Very, 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 very what's the name? Hypocritical.
Was realizing that in order to make Americans despise the federal government, he had to associate it with people and groups this country was already predisposed to despise. This was the ideological win Reagan needed to kick off an unprecedented divestment from the public sphere. From there, the rest was simple. Make the initial assertion that government couldn't work for ordinary people a self-fulfilling prophecy. First, you convince voters that government doesn't work for them. And then when you get into office, you gut social services until government actually is incapable of delivering for normal people, thereby proving your point. And when people's living standards predictably decline, distract them with racial and cultural wedge issues to keep the working class divided amongst itself. This creates a vicious cycle. The government fails to deliver for people, the public's anger and cynicism deepen, political divisions grow more intense, and as frustration mounts, large swaths of the population turn to politicians who manipulate them with divisive rhetoric. Politicians who, once in power, implement more policies that further erode the government's ability to help people. It was a masterclass in political manipulation, and it paved the way for the decades of erosion and exploitation that followed. But it didn't end there. Reagan's narrative didn't just give the American people a new set of villains, the federal government and the minorities it supposedly coddled. The story wouldn't be complete without a new set of heroes. And Reagan knew just who would fit the bill. Corporations. The 1980s did not shy away from materialism. It outright—
You see that? And that's where that Edward Bernays engineering consent, where the propaganda comes. You see what I'm saying? Making you think that you presenting you with these these material things. You see what I'm saying? It's the advertisement, these commercials, these billboards. That's where all that came from, man. You see what I'm saying? It's all a psychological play on the mind. You see what I'm saying? Brilliant, man. They work. They work, man. And it's still working. It's working even more now that you got social media.
Embraced it. Excess wasn't just tolerated, it was celebrated. And that attitude came right from Ronald Reagan's glorification of capitalism, particularly in stark contrast to the evil empire of Soviet communism. American corporations and the CEOs and founders behind them became celebrities. They weren't just business leaders anymore, they were cultural icons, held up as paragons of unparalleled genius and ingenuity. Wealth wasn't something to be questioned or scrutinized. It was the ultimate proof of individual competence, taken as gospel by an increasingly materialistic society. This is the reason why our society equates wealth with intelligence. It's why someone like Donald Trump, a man who stumbles through sentences, shows no signs of understanding complex issues, and appears to have never read a book in his life, can still be seen by so many people as a competent leader. The logic is simple. He's rich, therefore he's successful, therefore he must be qualified, even when the evidence of his disqualifications is overwhelming. This is Reagan's legacy, shifting the public's trust away from government and toward private companies and the men that run them. And the result? The public didn't just tolerate corporate dominance, they cheered it on, even as it steadily dismantled the very systems that were meant to protect them. It matters a great deal for our present purposes that the corporation itself is an inherently authoritarian social structure. A corporation operates on a strict hierarchy with decisions flowing top down. Workers, no matter what their expertise or contributions, are expected to follow orders.
Facts. You see, that's all a game. That's all a ploy. I'm telling y'all. To get us to do their bidding, it's like slavery.
And conform to the vision of the leader, a singular CEO or founder. Dissent is rarely tolerated, and checks on power are virtually non-existent. This is because constraints on the authority of a single chief executive are fundamentally incompatible with the corporate ideology that glorifies the decisive leader. The belief that an organization's success depends entirely on one person's vision. This isn't just a celebrated idea in capitalism. It's a foundational principle of it. In this narrative, CEOs and founders are mythologized as singular visionary figures, the kinds of people who take charge, make tough calls, and single-handedly guide their organizations to greatness. The corporate world thrives on this cult of the decisive leader, framing success as the work of one man's vision.
Elon Musk, nobody ain't man. Exactly. He's like the Tony Stark, right? And they compare him to like Stark. Pay attention, predictive programming, like Iron Man, like Marvel.
Rather than the product of collective effort. At its core, this ideology is about maximizing the power for one man to make bold, unilateral decisions, free from constraints, checks or balances, or any meaningful accountability. It glorifies the leader unburdened by the messy compromises of democracy. Someone who can act decisively without being slowed down by all these pesky things like debate and dissent and oversight. The contrast between the private and public sectors couldn't be clearer in this picture. Where the bureaucrat is inept, the businessman is confident. Where the bureaucrat is timid and unsure of himself, the businessman is bold and decisive. Where the bureaucrat dithers endlessly, the businessman gets things done. The narrative of capitalism's magical efficiency became one of the most enduring framing devices of the Reagan era. It explains why our political discourse keeps circling back to the idea that the government should be run like a business, lean, efficient, and free from all that pesky red tape. You know, those things like separation of powers, the rule of law, the Constitution, it's all just getting in the way of America being star-spangled awesome. It's what fuels our country's obsession with privatizing everything, from schools to hospitals, prisons, or even, as Trump recently floated, the US Postal Service. The promise is always the same. Turn something over to private corporations and magically it'll work better. Since Reagan, the message has been clear. If you want solutions, you're not going to find them in the messy bureaucratic halls of a government that has been designed not to work. You'll find them in the private sector, where decisive leaders, unshackled by procedural constraints, reign supreme. With that groundwork laid, it was only a matter of time before Americans began searching for a political outsider, ideally a businessman, who could drain the swamp and finally fix what they had come to see as a broken system.
Facts. That's where Donald Trump comes in. Salute to my dude right here, man. Check out his channel, man. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna play something about this plane crash, man. I'm about to get out of here right now.
Super Bowl for free. Get ready for the game and register now.
Been listening right now to WTTG. We're now taking over to show you this. This is video from the Kennedy Center camera, and you see that explosion right there. That is the moment when this small plane apparently crashed into a helicopter. You see a fireball, and then, Marla, we see that plane head down towards the Potomac River.
Oh, what an image there. And according to our sister station in DC, WTTG, that in fact is confirmed that a small aircraft.
So Kennedy just got confirmed yesterday, and then there's a crash at the Kennedy Center. Get it? Kennedy Center, Robert F. Kennedy, RFK, in Donald Trump's cabinet. You don't think this is a coincidence on the 29th day?
Craft
2 days before the 31st. So 1 in 29, you know what I'm saying? 1 in 29, you know. That's 11. You know, so I mean, interesting.
Collided with a helicopter. They were hearing that it is not a DC police helicopter, and colleagues on the ground say that several people were saying that it was a military helicopter. That information is not confirmed, but according to our sister station in DC, Fox 5 they have confirmed that it is a helicopter and a small aircraft that has collided. Again, this is
so at the Kennedy Center. It's not a coincidence, right? Kennedy is in Donald Trump's cabinet, and he just got sworn in yesterday. And today he was testified. Today Kennedy testified, and then there's a crash at the Kennedy Center. Wow, not a coincidence, y'all. I'm telling you, everything is connected.
This courtesy of the Kennedy Center, the moment of impact.
Yeah.
I started running my home
All
garage.
right, salute y'all. I'm about to get off here, man. So thanks for y'all tapping in, man. Doc Boss, you know what's normal. Thanks for tapping in, man. Stop by, you know what I'm saying. Thanks for stopping by, man. You know what I'm saying. And you had some good comments, man. Doc Boss, salute everybody. Salute that came through. You see what I'm saying in the building. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get the likes up. You know what I mean? Like, comment, subscribe, share this out to y'all social media. Yeah, man. So everything with this seems, man, it's just like I just said, there was a crash at the Kennedy Center, and today Kennedy was talking today in front of the, in front of Congress. And then, wow, today there was a crash at the Kennedy Center. I just think stuff like this is not a coincidence. You never know. And a lot of it's, like I said, it's by the numbers. You know what I'm saying? Wow. I just think it's interesting. You know? And like I said, you know, what are the odds of that? You know what I'm saying? And they was grilling them. That's like today they was talking about him and how his stance was on the vaccine and how it was before. And so, you know, like again, there was a crash at the Kennedy Center that just happened some hours ago. And I'm gonna do a more depth story on it, man. So I'm about to get off here though. Shout out, salute. Thanks for everybody tapping in, man. Like I said, subscribe, hit the notification bell if y'all new to the channel. Yeah, man, tap in, and I'm gonna come with some more information. All right. So other than that, salute, and I'm out. Peace, man. Thanks for supporting. All right.